Hello, it's Anthony Cheung here from Amplify Trading in London, and due to, I would say, popular demand, I've been asked to do a lecture or a conversation about how I use Twitter for the benefit of trading and monitoring the news. Now, it's a question I get asked a lot from a number of different people, all the way from kind of institutional level traders, desks at bond desks, FX desks, hedge funds, down to retail traders. Everyone kind of wants to know what's the kind of secret sauce that I use for monitoring Twitter. And really, once I go through this session, it's very much a case of a logical and quite a structured process in how to use that tool effectively to get the most out of it. And so there's a couple of things I can go over and explore and share with you. I think I've been using Twitter now for the best part of perhaps 8-9 years, always until more recently joining Amplify just for the purpose of monitoring. Now obviously I tweet a little bit more myself. A little bit about my background. I'm the head of market analysis here at Amplify Trading. I was in the same position previously for a company called Squawk, which is one of the world's leading squawk companies. My job then is to monitor financial news and give insight, analysis in a real-time fashion upon things of which I'm seeing. So that can be things that are coming out off of traditional news wires like your normal terminal systems, or can be things like Twitter, for example, where you can capture things like rumors and so on, which we're going to discuss. So that's what we're going to talk about. And going straight into things, why do we use Twitter? Now let's just build the scene first of why exactly use Twitter when you can use a Bloomberg or a Reuters, these kind of professional systems which people will pay thousands and thousands of dollars for every month. Now, the point being here is that the guys at the big institutions will be using those platforms, but those who are not familiar with it, a Bloomberg's news function is just one small part of that terminal. I mean, it's quite a powerful tool in terms of its analytics, its historical data sets that you can look at, as well as things like a chat function, pricing functions, and so on and so forth. The point being is, let's say Bloomberg has around 3,000 financial journalists worldwide, and they're releasing these news stories all of the time. Reuters might be doing the same, Wall Street Journal, the FT. These are your traditional financial news services. Now, one of the restrictions that they can have is that they can only really report authenticated and genuine news, which means then by default they can be quite slow on certain things. For example, what I've tried to do here is give you a kind of overview of why Twitter can kind of fill that gap and how it does so. First of all, speed. Now, one of the things here, and it kind of fits in lockstep really with the one on the right, which is rumors. Let's say Brexit has been a massive issue ever since it was initiated in the summer of 2016, and every time we get these kind of roadmaps of when there's a political event that's happening, like a vote in Parliament, for example, you see this big spike in traffic, and the pound becomes much more sensitive to movement and responsive to headlines when they come out. Now, one of the things there is that these journalists, and if you think about a journalist by default, what is their singular objective as a journalist? Now, what they want is basically to break stories first. If the guy at BBC can beat the girl at the ITV or Channel 4 and so on, they become much more famous for that. They become much more well followed, more respected. It's kind of the first out with the scoop is the king in that world. And the new format of delivering that, now that news dissemination has evolved so much over the period of the last decade, is Twitter. So I remember when I started in markets in 2006, literally you had to wait for the truck drop-off to pick up your newspapers fresh in the morning and read them, and then to find what was the important headline of the day. Markets would then open and react. But markets in 2020 now move radically different. Now it's a case of as soon as Jerome Powell, the Fed chair, says something, a journalist is on it and tweets it immediately. And financial news now, in a way of which prices or trades are executed, it's not just humans point click anymore. There's algorithms, there's other systems automated that can respond to these types of keywords, for example. And that means then the underlying story now is almost redundant. What actually moves markets in a very short-term intraday environment is a piece of news, a headline comes out, and the market spikes and so on. So speed is critical. The ability for Twitter being unauthenticated in a way means that it can circumvent the restrictions of the editorial sign-off process, meaning that news comes rapid. Now, obviously, one of the key things which we can discuss later is also authenticity is key. How do you know what you're seeing is genuine? Is one of the then things you'll need to tackle when using Twitter. But what it does offer is great access to speed and rumors. So with that Brexit example I was suggesting, when there's whispers in the halls of Westminster, you're going to hear it directly from your Laura Kuenssbergs, your Robert Pestons, your Paul Brands from ITV, for example. They will be tweeting it way before then it becomes on the 6 o'clock news, for example. The other thing that Twitter is so good is accessibility. That's why I've put access there, is the idea that you can just have this on your mobile. So when you're going about your business, for me, I'm on the commute into the City of London every morning, I can just jump on my phone, I can look at who I follow, because who I follow is a curated feed of bespoke individuals, hand-picked, that talk about the things that are relevant for me. Now for me, I monitor global macro, so I'm looking out for people commenting on these big top level things like the trade war or Brexit and Trump and so on. Now by the time I can say that I get into the office, which is about 20 minutes on the train, then I'm pretty much ready to go. I haven't looked at a Bloomberg, I've not looked at Reuters, I've not even looked at the charts, and I already pretty much know what they're going to look like. That's how powerful it can become, and certainly if you're a student perhaps watching this video, what a great way to be able to just learn on the fly between lectures, between traveling on a train or on the bus. It's a great way where you don't have to go through that arduous process of reading the FT back to back, cover to cover. It's just a case of you're seeing every tweet is adding value to your understanding and your awareness of what's going on in the market in a real-time sense. And the other thing then, that, as I've described, adds to the knowledge. You don't have to go through that arduous process of reading the FT back to back, cover to cover. It's just a case of you're seeing every tweet is adding value to your understanding and your awareness of what's going on in the market in a real-time sense. And the other thing then, that, as I've described, adds to the knowledge, the accumulation of knowledge. And that's one of the things where, for me, if you watch our morning briefings that we deliver on our YouTube channel, do subscribe to them, because they'll really help enhance your fundamental understanding of the market. So the overall global macro approach that we have here at Amplify Trading. But people often look at me and go, why do you know about labor strikes in South Africa and how that impacts, say, platinum prices? But then how do you know about the copper mines in Chile, in Escondida, but then how do you know about UK politics? Now, these things aren't, I haven't just magicked them up out of thin air. I know these things through having gone through years of experience, and Twitter definitely helps accelerate that kind of knowledge bank that I think you need to be an effective global macro trader, or to have a enhanced understanding of market fundamentals. But bear in mind, I have been doing this since 2006, so my ability to maintain and absorb information has certainly been improved by the way I've been trained and developed over time. Okay, just to finish up then, on Twitter, don't forget to follow the key members of the Amplify team. So those being Sam North, then there's me, and then our head of trading, Piers Curran. Hopefully that was insightful. I've had a lot of requests to do this video over the years, so hopefully it's going to be useful for you and you've enjoyed it, and it's opened your mind to a little bit of the way to view and approach using Twitter to trade and to monitor news. Any questions at all, please do feel free to leave a comment and I'll be happy to help further. All right, I'll see you next time. Thanks very much, guys.